fact that it's been 9 years since he last played in the Super Bowl. Think about that for a second.
Sure.
Like, where'd those 9 years go?
I know, it is incredible. I mean, you feel like he's still a young player, but he's been around for a very long time. Did you see O.C. Umenyiora crash his Zoom call?
I did not see
So it's actually a nice moment, I got to say, because it's Jason Pierre-Paul is someone that the memories of him at the end of his Giants career are not good because of the whole fireworks situation. It didn't end well, and then they end up getting rid of him, and then that was that. But, seeing him and O.C. Umenyiora have this, he didn't even know he was going to be there. So he's just sitting through a regular Zoom session with all these boring reporter questions. And then someone comes on, the moderator, and says, your next question's from O.C. Umenyiora, and his face lights up, and they're laughing, and they're talking about all these inside jokes no one knows about. But it was the first time that I looked at Jason Pierre-Paul in a very long time. I was like, oh, it's kind of cool. Like, I don't know. I just had this perception of who he was and what his career was, and he's really done an amazing job with the Buccaneers. He finds himself in the Super Bowl again, and he's a major part of this team that could really help the Bucs win a championship.
You know who reminds me of a little bit? He didn't do exactly what JPP did, didn't blow his hand off, but a former teammate of mine in Arizona, his name was Simeon Rice.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And Simeon Rice, for whatever reason, just couldn't get it right with, the Cardinals. And actually, he's a really good rookie. He had a great rookie season, and the hopes were really high for him. But then he goes to the Bucs, and it turned out to be just like Jason Pierre-Paul was turned out to be for the Bucs, and Shaq Barrett for the Bucs, who came from the Broncos.
So one Simeon Rice anecdote. He went on CBS Sports Radio maybe a couple years ago.
Yeah.
After he said that he was a Hall of Famer, and one of the weekend hosts, was disputing that he was a Hall of Famer.
Okay.
And Simeon Rice told that host to eat a bleep on the air and then hung the phone up on him.
Yeah.
And it was a phenomenal moment.
Simeon was a very emotional guy. There was no question. But I only got to know him but 1 year out there in Arizona.
Yeah.
He was really quiet that first year and had a very good year for the Cardinals. But then, I kind of lost track of him when he resurfaced in Tampa, kind of like JPP has resurfaced in Tampa.
Yeah.
And look, we wouldn't be talking about JPP if Tom Brady doesn't go there.
Oh, same. Yeah, right, exactly.
Because his team would not be here.
Right. Tom Brady just puts a bunch of very good players on his back and gives them these magical moments in his career. So let me ask you, when you look at the Bucs helmet,
yes,
what's the first player that comes to your mind?
In front of yesteryears or
just anything. Could be this team, could be, because I look at that helmet and I see that logo. There's one guy that pops in my mind more than anybody else, and I wanted to see if you had a similar experience.
Well, it's Warren Sapp.
Okay, for me it was Derek Brooks. I see that helmet, I think Derek Brooks.
Yeah.
Now, what about the Chiefs helmet?
The Chiefs helmet, well, notwithstanding this group of players,
right?
You're talking about yesteryear.
I'm just talking. I'm talking word association.
I
helmet
hate to say
association.
This, you're not even going to know who the player is. And I don't know why I always remember this player. Probably because when the NFL used to, back when I was growing up, and we had the West Coast games.
Yeah.
For some reason, we always had the Chiefs, Len Dawson, and Ed Podolak.
Ed Podolak,
who I believe wore number 14, a running back for the Chiefs.
Wow.
I don't know why. It's just
Podolak. So that's a good one.
It's just a weird deal. Like you would think I'd say Len Dawson or some of those great teams when Marty Schottenheimer was there.
To me, it's Derek Thomas.
Well, of course.
I got two Dereks here. That's the two guys that I think of right away. I think Derek Brooks. I think Derek Thomas when I see those two. Yeah. Ed Podolak.
When Derek Thomas was there, Coach Cowher was the defensive backs coach with Kevin Ross and Lloyd Burris and Greg Lewis, all those great defensive backs they had there.
Wow.
And Derek Thomas was there as well.
Yeah, gone too soon, Derek Thomas, yes. Unfortunately.
Totally unblockable. Would have been, probably is considered, I guess I put him kind of in the same category as Gale Sayers.
Yeah.
A career ended way too soon, and a guy that was unbelievable on the field and almost impossible to block. You had to put two guys on him.
Yeah. Now, Al, you covered the Buccaneers for a while and those really good teams. When you see that helmet and you see that old logo that, kind of is associated with that 2002 championship team, who do you think of?
I think of John Lynch.
Do you? Okay. That's another great one.
How about Leroy Selman and the old orange sickles?
Well, that's a different thing.
Yeah,
totally.
The orange helmet is Leroy Selman and Doug Williams.
Now, aren't they bringing those back next year?
I hope so, man, because they're allowed to change their helmets next year to have an alternate helmet, so everybody's assuming that's what they're doing.
I hope they do.
Oh, it'd be the best uniform in the NFL.
They got to have the sickles, man.
That would be the best uniform in the NFL with that white creamsicle Bucco Bruce helmet. That would be great.
Yeah, and by the way, they are the home team in this year's Super Bowl. I guess this, that goes from year to year, and you can wear whatever uniform you want when you're the home team.
Yeah.
And Bruce Arians has suggested and decided that they're going to wear white. And the reason they are wearing white is because they have been road warriors through this year's playoffs. They've won 3 games on the road, all wearing white. Coach Cowher did that back with the Steelers when he won his Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. They had to go 3 weeks on the road. They wore white on the road. Yep. They were the home team in the Super Bowl, and he elected to wear white.
That's right.
And so Bruce Arians is going with the uniform that they usually win in. Then I said on the other side of that, well, the red uniform for the Kansas City Chiefs is usually a winning uniform, too.
Well, I mean, the Chiefs could wear anything. It's a winning uniform. I mean, they've lost, 1 game in how long? I mean, it's insane how good they've been after winning the Super Bowl, coming back.
26-1.
Yeah, right.
26-1 in their last 27.
Yeah, 26 out of 27 they've rattled off in all sorts of uniforms.
I think that's right up there with the Patriots. I think the Patriots did the same thing. If they get one more, they'll be 27-1 and maybe the greatest run in 28 games in the history of the NFL.
Yeah, and for some reason, after all that, what we just said, I'm feeling like they're vulnerable. I felt like they were vulnerable the entire year, and they have continued to win. Now, one thing that sort of changed that vulnerability for me is how they just beat the brakes off the Buffalo Bills in that game. It wasn't even a game. I mean, the Bills were barely in the game. But there's major injuries, and this offensive line for the Chiefs is rough. And I remember when they had a couple offensive line issues during the regular season, how different that offense looked, including the one game they lost to the Vegas Raiders.
Well, they're going to move their right guard out to right tackle, which would be okay. He'll be fine. They're going to put Steven Wisniewski at right guard, and guess who they're putting at left tackle? Left tackle will be the guy who finished the AFC Championship game over there, former New York Giant Mike Remmers. Former Minnesota Viking Mike Remmers. Yeah. So it's not like they're putting some stiff out there. They're putting out a guy who's been a long-time NFL player.
Sure.
He also played in Super Bowl 50 for the Carolina Panthers.
Okay.
He was the one that was supposed to be blocking Von Miller that day.
Oh, supposed to be blocking Von Miller.
He had a hard time. But, the difference here, I think, is that you have really 2 unbelievable coaches from an offensive standpoint. And Andy Reid will scheme something up. I know both of these coaches are going to be balls to the wall, man. You know that.
No, of course.
There's nobody coming in here thinking, we got to run the ball 40 times and try to keep the ball away from the other team. No. This is going to be, we're going for it on 4th down. We're going to have fake punts. We're going to have all sorts of unique plays on offense. They're going to Todd Bowles will try to do something defensively to try to keep Patrick Mahomes in the pocket. And then, of course, Steve Spagnuolo knows very well how to play against Tom Brady. And whether or not he gets there with blitzes, because that's usually what they have to do. I think that's the game within the game. So I believe it's going to be a high-scoring game. Do you feel the same?
Yeah, no, I do. I do like the over in this game for sure.
So it's 56.5 is the number.
Yeah, I do. I do like the over. I think it's going to be
like a 31-27 game.
Yeah, it's going to be a one-score game. Yeah, I think it's going to be a field goal game, one-score game. I think it's going to be epic. I think it's going to be one of these 2 quarterbacks that's just going to be just a little bit better. And that's what it's going to come to. I would be so surprised if one team was exponentially better than the other in this game. That would surprise me.
They're about disaster recovery and data.
Oh, okay, very good.
And I was the perfect guy to have because, like when you play for the Bengals, the Jets, and the Cardinals, otherwise the Bermuda Triangle of the NFL, it's all about disaster recovery.
Very good.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was doing this, and I was thinking yesterday just how. You just took me off my train of thought. What was I?
So you did a Zoom call with this company talking about the Super Bowl.
Oh, no. So I was reading the message boards.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. You actually distracted me.
Sorry.
All right. So I was reading the message boards, and everybody on those message boards has, like, all these high scores. Mm-hmm. And, there were some Bucs fans and Tom Brady fans on there. There are Patrick Mahomes fans all over the place, Chiefs fans all over the place. Every single score was by far the over.
So it makes you want to take the under then.
It makes me want to take the under. That's what I said yesterday. And I'm like, man, you can see, like, it should be a lot of offense here. But then again, like when you think about the offensive line of the Chiefs, and you think about how good Shaq Barrett and how good JPP have been the last 6 weeks of the season, you're like, those guys are going to be involved here.
Well, I feel like Andy Reid, with this information, 2 weeks leading up to the game, is going to tailor this offense where he's just going to not make that a factor. I mean, that's sort of my take on that. Now, when they had issues, I remember when they lost Kelechi Osemele, and Jet fans are going to laugh at that name, but when they lost him in the middle of a game, that was a big deal for them to deal with in the middle of the game. They've got 2 weeks to prepare, knowing that the offensive line is what it's going to be, and one of the best coaches we've seen in Andy Reid.
And remember, they also had actually the first guy who opted out of this COVID-19 season, Laurent Duvernay-Tardif.
That's right.
An offensive guard who went back to Canada and is on the front lines up there at McGill University Hospital. So it's, that's the great thing about this. The other thing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I don't know about Levante David, got a hamstring. And then Cody Whitehair, their backup safety, who got hurt against Green Bay. I doubt he's going to play, man. He screwed that shoulder up on that hit.
Yeah, so Jordan Whitehead, Levante David, Antonio Brown apparently is supposed to practice, at least coming up. He's getting ready to practice. So there's still some injury concerns there, without a doubt, that we're not going to know the answers to. There probably would have been bigger stories if this was a normal Super Bowl game, meaning that everybody was there, it was being covered, it was media day, it was opening night, all of these things. The injury questions have sort of been on the back burner because nobody's around. Nobody knows the practices. I don't even know where these guys are practicing. I think the Bucs practiced yesterday like 40 miles away from the facility or something, somewhere. I don't know. It's a mystery. This is one of the weirdest weeks leading up to the Super Bowl ever.
They may be doing it on purpose. They may be doing things that they don't want anybody to see.
Sure.
Every coach in every league, anywhere I've ever been around, they're all paranoid. Every single coach is paranoid. You know that, right? Of
course.
The Bellport coaches are in the bushes watching practice. That kind of thing. But and in the NFL, it just gets to be insane. So I would imagine that Bruce Arians was like, you know what, guys? Let's get out of here. There's too many cameras over there at the stadium and where we practice and all this other stuff. We need to get away from here and go do our things somewhere else. That could be the case. I don't know. But I would assume that they're having and using their own locker room.
Oh, yeah, I would think. I mean, why wouldn't you? It sort of makes one thing a little bit easier.
But there's no way that Andy Reid would want to go into their locker room.
Oh, no way. Yeah. No, you don't want to do that.
They'd be like, do they have microphones in here? Do they have cameras? And what's going on in here?
Yeah, check the lamp like the Mafia would do, thinking that the FBI had gone in there and bugged it.
Yeah, well, it's not Bill Belichick running that place. It is Bruce Arians who probably after practice, let's go have a glass of whiskey or something at the local bar or something like that.
Sure.
But, it'll be interesting getting down there, see what it looks like. The weather is a little bit iffy. It looks like there could be some rain for this game, but as long as there's not wind, then it's not like one of those, like when we watch a Tampa Bay game where there's wind and rain and all that other stuff. I don't think it's going to affect the game. So if it doesn't, that means it should be a pretty good offensive showing by both teams.
Right. So a couple more days that you hear today and tomorrow, then you head down there to get a feel of what's happening at the site of Super Bowl 55. And tonight, if I'm not mistaken, isn't tonight the Super Bowl's greatest commercial show again?
8 o'clock on CBS. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Bingo. I knew it.
Bingo, that's right.
I knew it.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the red bell so you're notified when we have new content.